How's it going, everybody? We're back again today for another episode. I apologize if there's some wind noise or stuff like that. It's super windy out right now. We're in the middle of a storm, and also I still haven't got the microphone situation worked out yet. We've got quite a few things to do today. We're going to start tearing down the 500 engine, and I've got to pull the wiring harness out of the Ninja 500 as well, so I'm not sure if I'll break that up into different episodes or not, but let's pull the engine in here and let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be working on here is actually, I'm going to make block-off plates for these two valves here. They're the pair valves, and once I get them off, I'll show you guys and explain a little bit more about what they do and why we're removing them. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what these pair valves actually do. Essentially, what they are here is this little cap that goes on the cylinder head of the engine, and it's got this port on it, and that goes back to your intake box. So where the air for your engine is pulled in by the carbs and everything, there's this hose that will go on these and actually go over to the air box. And you can see here, there's this little hole inside of where that cap covers. And what that does is that hole actually leads straight through the head of the engine here. This is the exhaust side, and it comes right out the exhaust port, right at the top. So basically the purpose for that is when there's air and fuel going through the engine, not all of it always gets burnt, but the unburnt fuel that's coming out is actually so hot that the only reason it's not burning is just because there's no more oxygen left for it to combust. So that system pulls air in from the intake and it just routes it straight into the exhaust, and the second that oxygen combines with the fuel, it combusts in your exhaust. So it really helps cut down on emissions and stuff like that. It's an important part of the emission system, however, it's not going to be very necessary for what we're doing. Now, having this system doesn't affect performance at all in one way or the other, because everything that it's doing is completely after the combustion. So why do I want to remove it for this build? Well, there's a couple reasons. One of the more common reasons why the pair system is removed is just for weight savings. You take all that stuff off, you get a little bit of weight removed from the top of the engine, and it's easier to get in to change your spark plugs and stuff like that. There's not as many hoses and stuff running over the top of the engine. So that's a great benefit, especially swapping an engine into a different chassis where I need that little bit of extra space or stuff like that. Another one of the really common reasons to do it is if you don't like that sound of the crackling and popping exhaust when you let off on deceleration. Personally, I actually really enjoy that sound, but what it is that unburnt fuel igniting in your exhaust and actually popping and crackling. So while I do like that sound, there is a couple bigger reasons why I'm going to be removing this system. The first one is because I'm going to coil-on plug type coils. You'll see here, when I try to put the coil in, if this pair valve is in the way it's supposed to, it actually interferes with the coil and doesn't allow me to have it in there properly. So if I put a block-off plate instead, that gives the coil lots of room. I could turn it around like this and route the hoses up over the top of the engine and everything, but it's not super essential, and I do have a much bigger reason why these need blocked off anyway, and that is because pulling fresh air into the exhaust seriously changes the air-fuel ratio that's in the exhaust. On a carbureted bike or a factory bike, they account for that. They're not too worried about it. But when I go to tune it with a wideband O2 sensor, having fresh air being injected into that exhaust is actually going to skew my air-fuel readings coming from the gauge. So I want to remove these and block it off so that the air-fuel that's being read in the exhaust is the actual air-fuel ratio coming out of the engine. So for those reasons, I'm going to make block-off plates to block that off. And it's super common, like You can buy kits for almost any bike that has these to block them off. But since I'm here and I've got a bit of time, I'm just gonna draw some up quick and cut them out, and we'll make those. So the gaskets are a little bit broken, but I think they're going to create a good enough seal. This isn't an overly important part, I just don't want it pulling in tons of air into the exhaust. So I'm just going to reuse these gaskets when I make them. I'm just going to make these out of some sheet metal that I had laying around. It's just designed for like body work. I'm not sure exactly what gauge this is. You could use pretty much anything. Now obviously, it's not necessary to have all the pneumatic and power tools and stuff. You could do this all with a hacksaw and a drill basically if you wanted to. But it makes the job a little bit quicker when you have them. Okay, so that's not perfect, but it's definitely close enough for me. I'm going to come in here real quick with a Dremel tool with a sanding bit on it just to kind of clean up the burrs and stuff so I don't cut myself on it, and then we'll go on to drilling the holes. That looks like it's gonna fit just right. And we'll just snug that up with the wrench real quick. And that is perfect. So now we're just gonna make an exact copy again of this one and we'll be done. But I'm just going with a load loss black engine enamel that I had laying around the shop. Okay, so we've got both our plates made. This last one's just drying. And since that bolt was pretty close to not clearing, I've grabbed some washers out of the drawer here. They're just going to add a little bit of a spacer so you have a couple more threads on top of that there. So we're going to wait for this to finish drying and then we'll go ahead and bolt them down. So there it is, guys. That's the block off plates all done and installed. Alright, so there you go, guys. Nice short episode for you today. Of course, you could go out and buy these block-off plates. They sell them all over for most bikes. You can find them online if you just look it up. But honestly, it's so quick and easy to do at home. So why bother paying for someone else to do it? It doesn't really make any difference. It doesn't need to look pretty. No one's going to see that. So yeah, if that's something that you guys want to do, if you have an aftermarket exhaust that you don't like the crackles and pops on or anything like that, go ahead and get rid of these things. They really don't do anything other than, like I said, emissions. If you live in somewhere that's a tightly emission controlled place, yeah, you might want to leave those on. But around here you don't even have to emissions test cars or trucks or stuff like that. It's pretty lax emissions laws, so yeah, go ahead and remove that and save yourself a little bit of weight. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. There's a lot more coming yet, so make sure to stay tuned. We'll be tearing that engine down in the next video and starting to do some work on it, getting it ready to go into the Ninja 250 chassis. Thanks for watching.